Hey guys, it's Emily, and today I will be doing the try a chapter tag. So I haven't done this tag in a while, and I thought it would be a good idea to do this tag again to help me pick my next read. So the books that I will be choosing from today are all from my fall TBR. So if you guys haven't checked out that video, I will make sure to leave it linked in the description box down below, as well as up above in the cards, so that if you guys want to see the books that I'm planning on reading this season, you can watch the video. But today I will be choosing from 5 different books, and the video is going to be divided into 2 different parts. So the first half is going to be my try chapter tag, in which I will be reading the first chapter of 5 different books, and then the second half of this video is going to be a reading vlog, and I will be reading the book that I choose through this tag, and we're going to be seeing if my first impressions hold up. So I have 5 different books to show you guys today. The first one is Cersei by Madeline Miller. So this is a retelling of the Greek myth of Cersei, which I'm not too familiar with. The only thing that I know is that Cersei is a witch or a sorceress of some sort, and so I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've heard a lot of great things about Madeline Miller and about this book, so I thought I would give this a try. I actually tried to read this, I think it was last year, and I just couldn't really get myself immersed into the story, so I stopped after like 30 pages, but I'm hoping to pick this back up again, and hopefully this tag will make me want to read this. The second book is a recent addition to my fall TBR, so it is not in the video in which I present to you guys my fall TBR, but I watched a booktuber and she mentioned that as part of her TBR, and I was like, you know what, this is a perfect book for this season. So it is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shannon McGuire. This is the prequel to Every Heart a Doorway, which I read earlier this year and really loved, so I am really looking forward to reading this one. As you can tell by the cover, it's going to be a pretty spooky book. This takes place in an underworld, and we are following Jack and Jill, who I really loved in the first book, and I was so intrigued by their backstories, so I'm really happy that this book focuses on them. And I am trying to finish more series this year, so I think this is going to be a great pick. It's also quite short, so I am really looking forward to reading that. The third book is Wild at Heart by Kate Tucker, so I wanted to have something a little bit more light and fun to add to this try chapter tag. So we have the sequel to The Simple Wild, and I'm quite intrigued by this because I liked the ending of The Simple Wild. I thought it came to a full circle, and I didn't really feel the need for a sequel. Like, yes, it left the door open to more possibilities, but I did not expect to see a sequel. And then this came out, and I don't know, I thought I would give this a try. I'm quite on the fence with this one because, as I said, I didn't feel the need for a sequel, but also I did really enjoy the first one, so I don't feel the need to read this, but at the same time I kind of want to see where the author will take our main characters. Next up is one of BookTube's most controversial books, and we have Surfeit and Dove by Shelby Muharram. So people either seem to love this or hate this. I don't know which side I will fall on, but this is one of my most anticipated reads of last year, and I never got around to it. Basically, it's set in France in the 1800s, I believe. I might have the time period wrong, but I know it's set in the past. And we are following a witch hunter and a witch, and I think there's a hate to love relationship going on. I believe that they get married, I think at the beginning of the book. I don't think that's a spoiler. I'm looking forward to it. I am quite curious. It's a big beast, but I think it's going to be perfect for this season, so I'm excited to finally give this a try. And finally, I had to include a classic, and so I have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. Can we take a second to talk about this edition, because it is absolutely stunning. But this is one of the books that I'm most curious about, simply because I don't really know anything about it. I don't know which genre it falls into. I'm not sure if it's a mystery or a romance. I have no idea about the plot, and it intrigues me because I know a lot of people love this book, so I'm looking forward to reading this. And there's going to be a Netflix adaptation that's coming out at the end of October, so I really need to read it by then, and so I thought we would sample it today, see what I think about it. So these are the books that I will be sampling today. I have quite the variety, as you can tell. I have a classic, a YA fantasy, a adult contemporary, I'd say, adult fantasy, and literary fiction. I'm not too sure what Cersei falls into. Fantasy? I don't know. Not too sure. But I'm excited to be trying those. I think the first one that I'm going to be trying for the tag is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, because, as I said, I'm very intrigued by this book, and so we're going to try to figure out what this book is about by reading the first chapter. Okay, so I have read the first chapter of Rebecca, and I'm still very confused. The first chapter was quite short. It was only like 4 pages, and the main character was retelling a dream that she had. But honestly, so far, I don't know anything about this except that it takes place in a place called Manderley, I believe. It's probably like a manor, an estate, or something like that, but other than that, I don't know too much about it. I feel like it might be more of a mystery than like a romance, even though there might be some romantic elements involved, but I'm curious. I'll be honest, I'm definitely intrigued. Oh, I forgot to mention, but I skipped the introduction because they tend to be quite spoilery, and I really wanted to dive into this completely blind, so I skipped it, even though it was quite short. It was only like 3 or 4 pages, but I decided to just dive into the first chapter not knowing anything about the book. So far, I would love to know more, but I don't really have any concrete thoughts about this thus far because I haven't read enough to be able to form an opinion on this. Alright, so the second book that I decided to try the chapter of is Cersei by Madeline Miller, mostly because it's a book that scared me the most because I tried to read it once and it wasn't my cup of tea, so I DNF'd it, and now I'm coming back to it and I don't really know what to think. I don't feel completely drawn to it, but I feel like it might be because I have prejudice against it since I tried to read it before, DNF'd it, and yeah, I don't know, maybe that's just why I wasn't completely attached to it. I could see myself enjoying this if I continued reading, but it's quite a slow beginning and not much really happens. And we really start from the beginning of Cersei's journey and her story. So we start on the day that she's born and then we go forward. So obviously this is going to take a while until she reaches her adult age. So yeah, so far not much has really happened. Everyone is super cruel to Cersei. I don't know, there's not really much to tell. I could see myself enjoying this, but I would have to stick to it a little bit longer. But the writing is really beautiful and it's giving me a little bit more of an insight on the Greek myth, but other than that, I mean, I don't have a lot to say thus far, but like I said, I think I would just need to stick to it a little bit longer and I might enjoy this. Alright, so I decided to try Wild at Heart by Kay Tucker, and this picks up right where the first book left us, and I was not expecting that. I thought for sure some time would have passed between the first book and the sequel, but no. Like literally it takes us maybe a couple of hours later after what happened in the first book, and I am excited to see where this goes. This first chapter was really short and I can already see in chapter 2 that there's a jump in time. So that was like, I think the first chapter was in November and then we're moving forward to December. So there's going to be a month between the actual story and this first chapter, so it was kind of like a prologue in a way. I'm quite excited now to read this. I don't know why I was putting this off, but I could see myself really enjoying it. I think this might take place over the course of Christmas, so I might want to wait for this one after all. I thought because of the cover that this took place during autumn, but from what I can see, it's mostly set in December, so maybe I could wait a little bit and maybe read that in November to prepare for Christmas. I don't know. I'm excited for this, but I just want the timing to be right when I read this. So I'm not too sure if I'm going to be continuing it today, but I would be willing to continue this if this is the one that I like most. Okay, so I just read the first chapter of Surfeit and Dove by Shelby Muharram, and meh, I don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion thus far. I'll be honest, I have read the first chapter of this before. I did a try a chapter tag for myself, did not film it. I was going through a bunch of books that I had on my shelf that I hadn't gotten around to, and this was one of them. And back then it didn't catch my attention, and I don't feel like it did now too. Maybe if I continued reading it, I would enjoy this. I love a good hate to love romance, so I think once the romance aspect of it gets introduced, I might get more into it. But so far there's not much for me to grab onto, but I do love a good like angsty romance, so I think I could enjoy this if I continued and pushed a little bit. But yeah, so far I don't really know. I also laugh at the fact that all of the French words are like insults and just like swear words. I'm a French speaker if you didn't know. So I have read the first chapter of our final book, which is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire, and wow, I'm already blown away by this book. It's already so dark and twisted and nothing has really happened. Like the only thing that we've witnessed is like how these two girls came to be, so basically how they were born and conceived and just like how they were brought up, I guess, in a way, like what their parents were like and what led to them having the children. And it's already like so dark and twisted, and I'm already super excited to continue reading. So I am really enjoying it so far. Shauna Maguire has a way of writing that completely catches my attention. I really love the way she writes, and I'm really enjoying the way that she talks about the characters, and we can already tell something is going to happen. Like there's already so much promise into this first chapter, and I'm so excited to continue reading. Okay, so after having read the first chapter of our 5 books, I have made 2 piles. So I have the pile of books that I'm not super interested in right now. That doesn't mean that I will never read them. It just means that right now they're not necessarily the books that I would pick up first. So we have Surfeit and Dove by Shelby Muharram. Like I said, I wasn't really super hooked by the first chapter, but if I push, I think I could really enjoy this. And then we have Cersei by Madeline Miller. I just felt kind of confused with everything that was going on, and I just, once again, didn't really feel hooked to it. But this is one that I'm really going to try to push through at some point and read, because I tried it once, it wasn't my cup of tea, but I didn't read a lot. Like I read maybe 30 pages before I DNF'd it, so I would want to read a little bit more before I make a decision as to whether or not I'm enjoying this. But these two books are not going to be the ones that we're going to be reading for this reading vlog. So that leaves us with the 3 books that I'm actually really into and the ones that caught my attention, I guess. So first we have Rebecca, which, like I said, is very mysterious and very intriguing because I know nothing about it. So this is one that I think I would really enjoy reading, but since it's quite thick and it's a classic, so I want to take my time with it, I think we're going to hold on to it a little bit longer and wait before I read it. But this is definitely something that I want to pick up soon in the near future because I am really intrigued by it and I know it's a lot of people's favorite. Up next we have Wild at Heart by Kay Tucker. As I said, I really enjoyed the first chapter, the first 4 pages. I was hooked already and I am really looking forward to reading it. The first book was not so much about the romance, it was kind of a subplot. The first book was mostly about our main character and her relationship with her father, but in the sequel it's mostly about the romance, and I loved the romantic aspect of the first book, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. But as this takes place around Christmas time, like December and like the Christmas season, I think it would be better if I read it a little bit later, once maybe spooky season has happened, meaning like Halloween. So maybe in November this would be perfect. I don't know if it takes place only in December or if it's a book that has like multiple seasons throughout, but I think just because I know most of the plot, or at least the next part in the book, takes place in December, I'm going to hold on to it a little bit longer. So that leaves us with Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire, which I'm really happy about because it's super short, so that means that I can read this very quickly, and it's another book that I will have read off of my fall TBR and also was really interested in the story and the premise, and I'm really happy that I'm continuing a series as well because, as I've mentioned, I think I am trying to finish more series this year, and so I think this would be a great way to continue reading one because the next book in the series comes out in 2021, but this has like 5 books out so far and I've heard lots of great things about this series as a whole, and I did enjoy the first book, so I think we're going to go with this one. Hey guys, so I am on page 99 of Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and so far I am really enjoying it. So I'm about halfway through and I love the atmosphere in this book. It is so dark and twisted, and Shauna Maguire really has a way with words. You can really tell because it's amazing. I love the writing, I love the world building, and this reminds me a lot of a fairy tale. So if you enjoy fairy tales, I think you would really love this series because they kind of read like fairy tales. They're kind of short, and the way it is told is kind of like once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, you know? So I'm really enjoying this prequel. The only thing that I'm worried about though is that I'm about halfway through and the twins have only just arrived to this portal world, so their story has only just begun, and the twins stayed in this world for 5 years if I remember correctly from the first book, and I'm kind of worried that the author will rush through the ending. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all wraps up, but this is the only thing that I'm kind of worried about because these books are so short that the ending will be somewhat disappointing and that she'll gloss over a lot of things just so that we can get to the good parts. I don't know, I guess we'll see what happens with that, but so far I am really enjoying it and I'm intrigued and looking forward to seeing how it all ends. Hey guys, so I have finished reading Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire and I really enjoyed it. I did think that the ending kind of let me down a little bit. I felt like it was a little bit underwhelming, probably because I already knew what would happen based on the first book in the series, so Every Heart a Doorway. Jack and Jill's story is mentioned in the first book, and so I already knew how it ended, but not exactly how. Like the specifics weren't mentioned in the first book if I remember correctly, but I feel like this was a little bit underwhelming because of that. If I hadn't read the first book, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more because I wouldn't have seen the ending coming, but I still really did enjoy it. I loved the atmosphere and the world building, and I think the author did a great job when it comes to character development. She really explored the duality of the twins, but also the complexity of their characters. These twins have been stuck in boxes for most of their lives, and so when they arrive in the moors, they're able to be who they want to be, and the author really explored their characters, I feel like, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. Jack is my favorite. I really love this, and I'm really hoping that the author will write more stories that are set in this world. Obviously, I know there's a continuation to this series, but I hope there's going to be more about Jack and Jill specifically, especially Jack, because she is my favorite character, like I said. But yeah, I don't know if there's any more books about the twins, but I hope there's at least another book in which Jack is present because I really like her character and I would love to see more. But I had a great time reading this, 4 out of 5 stars. So that brings our video to an end. I had such a great time reading Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and I think it was such a great choice for this video. It was short and sweet and exactly what I needed for this time of year. It was kind of spooky as well, and I think it was really perfect for this season. Obviously, I'm still very much interested in reading the rest of the books that I talked about in this video, especially Wild at Heart. I think I was so set on not reading it or just not wanting to read it, but I still bought it because, you know, it was a sequel and I wanted to wrap up this duology and being able to say that I've read it. But but I was not expecting to love it necessarily, and just reading the first chapter makes me very excited to dive more into it. So I remember now why I love the first book. So this is one that I'm really looking forward to reading because, like I said, I had such low expectations for it, but now that I read the first chapter, I'm like, okay, I need to read this soon. So if you guys have read any of the books that I talked about in this video, please let me know what you thought about them in the comments down below. I'm still planning on reading all of them this season, so I would love to see what you guys thought about them. Also, let me know which one you would have picked if you had been in my situation. If you had done this try a chapter tag, which of the books would you have picked for yourself? And I guess that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give this a big thumbs up. That really helps out my channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!